Hello, 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 and welcome to the Muses Lab podcast. We're back with another astrology talk with Minister Kailyn Davillier, and baby, March is looking a little wild. However, in this month's astrology talk, Kailyn provides us with some prompts to guide us through the astrological transits to better assess the astrology and apply. She offers a unique perspective on Venus and Mercury, which both will be in retrograde this month. And as the spring equinox approaches and the time springs forward, we enter into eclipse season with, as Minister Kailyn says, windows of opportunity. She also goes into detail on the best ways to navigate these themes and to focus our attention inward as Mercury and Venus, which are highlighted for March, are closer to us in the solar system, placing their energetic themes with a more intimate impact. The key here is for us to embrace perspective along with the flow of beginnings and endings as it pertains to self and the collective. So grab your pen, your favorite drink, and let's begin. Why is it always in the summer when shit be popping off? I'm offended, to be quite honest.
I feel like it's been like that too, like the last, this year included, it'll be like 3 or 4 years. It'll be like the start of summer in June, July will be iffy, because the Cancer season last year was absolutely
That was trash.
It was trash. Two Capricorn full moons. Outrage.
Please get me out of Cancer season now. Like,
Done.
please.
I was done. I think after the first one, I was like, I think I'm good. And then July started.
I was like, yeah, I got to get out of Cancer season. My God. And then I moved in July. So by the time I moved, I was back home in August. But like the weeks leading up to that, I was like, what the fuck is this? This shit is trash. Like, I am over Cancer season. Please.
Like July was so horrible.
Get me
From the
out.
beginning to the 31st, 11:59 p.m. Like,
My
it was
God.
everything. It was horrible for me personally. I lost my friend, and like all of that. Just that was not expected. Yeah, it was not.
Mm-mm.
I'm not doing a repeat of that. I'm not partaking in that.
Yeah, I want no parts of that. I was like, nah.
2 full moons in the same season. It brings that. It really does bring. It depends on what it's in, but Capricorn, yeah, it's not for the weak. It really tested a lot of people, so I'm not surprised. It's horrible.
That was a wreck. I was like, nah. Is this over? Where is Leo season? Have we started yet? Cause I got to get out this luminary. I need to be in the sun.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and then because we had the Aries Libra eclipses, Pluto was still in Capricorn, so it was squaring so much at the same time. The sun, because it's in Cancer, so that was squaring the eclipses, and the eclipses had just done a little change, and it was monumental. That was some astrology.
You got to bring us back into the present, cause woo, that was.
Because the Kailyn then was like begging for it to stop. I was like, August was not super comfortable, but it was a release because it was our birthday.
Yes. Yes.
I was like leaning on my August Leo. I was like, y'all, we gotta get through this. We gotta get through this. Because the July Leos, it didn't. It wasn't clicking for them. I was like, I gotta lean on this because this is not. Nope. Oh my gosh. All right. March 25. Oof.
The chaos ensues.
It's chaos. I would say also it's because there are a lot more conjunctions and sextiles.
Okay.
I think the uncomfortable, like you mentioned before, there's this yearning to not just start something new, but to feel renewed with the spring. Like we really, and again, where I'm at here in Europe, they literally still do a lot of the Like they just had a festival last week, but essentially it aligns up with Mardi Gras. It's the same
Oh, wow.
traditions. It's the same
Yeah.
stuff. So they're doing things. They do the pancakes, which also is a part of the Catholic aspect. There's Ash Wednesday. All of that has a lot to do with the same thing, right? Ramadan. So a
Yeah.
lot of the major religions, Passover, all of those things, whether people honor them or practice them themselves. I don't practice any of the Abrahamic religions, but they all have they all do the same holidays around the same time, right? And
Yeah.
that's my personal opinion on that. They all align up with, if they know or if they are thinking about that. And then if we look at Lupercalia and we're looking at these pagan traditions, and if we're looking at the wheel of the year, there is a push for winter to be over. In the physical 3D realm, I'm tired of seeing snow. I'm tired of seeing ice. I'm tired of
Yes.
layering. I'm tired of all of the cold, all of the dead, all of the crops, things like that. If we're still thinking in the space of what we can see and what we can touch and what we can experience, a lot of us do want winter to end. We are really tired of this season for some specific reason. And so I think that this push comes for a lot of people, and we're fire signs. So we're always looking for our fellow sisters and brethren and fam. So it's not surprising that people who have fire dominant charts or who are ruled by the sun or ruled by Mars and even Jupiter, I would say in that aspect, that the Pisces is coming to an end. There's an end to this, it's Neptunian aspect of it, just feeling not lost, but just feeling like you're not really set on everything that you're looking forward to. So
Yeah.
the yearning is, I think, a natural rhythm, and that's to feel pulled to start a lot of things or to just feel that way with nature. It's not surprising at all, because it really is the beginning of the new year, whether
Yeah.
the girls observe it or not. I think those specific religions know that still, which is why so many of their holidays align up around the same time in March and April. It just, it's clicking. It makes too much sense why they still honor those specific points in their religions. It's because it's honoring the change of the seasons. There's still a yearning to connect with Mother Nature, even if your religion has done its job of eradicating that, of erasing that, of washing it. And some of it is whitewashing it away.
Yeah.
Or sanitized in the eye of white supremacy. So
Yeah.
I still have Islamic friends. I still have Jewish friends. I still have, Christian people in my life, but I know what's up. A lot of us who are spiritual and who honor seasons or who are pagan and who really looking at the aspects of what's going on, I already know what's going on. I already know what the equinox means. So I say that respectfully to say that we're all still trying to connect back to nature. We're all trying to go back to source and how source shows up for us in the 3D on the earth, and the planets and the skies show that. Yeah, it's freaking starting. But we still have 2 weeks and a few days to sit with Pisces, and that's how March starts off. So Venus has just gone into retrograde on the 1st, and Venus has entered retrograde 11 degrees in Aries. However, the retrograde will bring Venus back to Pisces. And so the pre-show was on January 28th. So that was the particular degrees that Mars will return to when it is gone direct on April 12th. So Venus is going to be retrograde pretty much a month and almost a month and a half.
Yeah.
Pre-shadow means that that particular degree, that phase has pretty much been a month as well. So January 28th, February 28th, it's been a month, a full month of Venus showing us how, hey, this is what I'm going to be asking you to review and look over this next month.
Oh.
So pre-shadow that's the pre-shadow. That's the curtain call or rehearsal, if you will, in theater terms. The preview, as we've mentioned before, in film or cinematic terms. I would even say, just not to make it sound too aggressive, but it's okay. This is a warning about things that you really need to sit with. And not just sit with, but things that you need to do after you have taken the time of reflection.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge issue even in therapy, psychology. A lot of people just tell people to sit with stuff, and I can sit and be uncomfortable for months. Okay, we're talking to a depressed girly, anxiety ridden girly, ADHD, all that good stuff. Like, I can sit with everything if I want to. I can sit with joy. I can sit with things. What do I do with it? And just to remind any of the listeners really quickly, this is something you and I have spoken about too, but Venus is not just romantic love and she's beauty and grace. Venus, that is a part of Venus. I'm not taking that away from Venus. We also need to learn about how we handle our finances. Venus is about your skills as well. So not even just physical money. Venus rules the second house as well as the seventh house. So people just think, oh, romantic partnerships, whatever. Second house is not just your material items. I think that's a Pentacles thing. I think that's the Taurus aspect of the second house. Pentacles are also about your time and investment and your energy, what you're doing with your labor. And that's an element that I've done with the Pentacles with my tarot journey and my tarot work as a reader. So I think that this next month and some change, a lot of people need to take a look at their skills that they have wanted to work on, things that are bringing them prosperity and abundance, and then maybe reassessing the things that aren't, or how to strengthen your skills, strengthen that. You and I have talked about specifically, though, I want to get to revenge.
I was waiting for you to say revenge.
Yeah, because I really do think that, especially with Venus doing the retrograde with Pisces and Aries and then going direct and then being in the post shadow for another month and some change. Venus should be teaching people how to, if you practice any form of spell work, or even if you don't practice spell work, just, I would say, reminding yourself on how to stand up for yourself, speak up for yourself. Venus is at home in Pisces. She loves being in Pisces. That's great. I do think that once Venus goes into Aries and stations direct, is fully out of the post shadow, which will be May 16th. So again, this is going to be a huge, like a long time sitting with Venus, stationing, but also going back to being direct. I really think that Venus is going to teach a lot of people in Aries to be firm, reassess boundaries, and it's going to be also linked up with Neptune that will go into Aries. We'll talk about that a little bit later with this month forecast. But in particular with revenge, I see people standing up for themselves and reassessing their boundaries and feeling a sense of, like, feeling as though Aries is giving you a chance to really breathe again and to honestly start off this new astrological year with some better boundaries and with some better fierceness in how you show up for yourself, you show up for your skills, you go for goals, and how you go for people now, and representing other people. And I say this because the astrology this month, I don't like to do readings for people and talk about all the fluffy stuff again, like love, beauty, and all this other glamour and la di da, the love and light, as people like to say. We're in dire straits right now. A lot of us have already been in dire straits as marginalized people. So when we have astrology like this, when I'm talking about revenge, when I'm talking about asserting yourself, standing up for yourself, standing up for the things that will outlive you, when we're talking about Venus as well. Venus and Saturn are going to be having some conversations because Saturn is still in Pisces. Venus is still going to be having a conversation with them. We're talking about our boundaries. We're talking about Mars. We're talking about Saturn. That we're talking about the collective as well. And so, because Venus is closer to us than the outer planets, Neptune and all the other ones, Neptune and Saturn, maybe. I think as far as a collective for Venus, I really need people to look at what they have to offer others in terms of mutual aid, how we need to be protecting people in regard to immigration. There's just a lot that I want this astrology to really stand for. And I'm hoping that as we get through these next 20 years of Pluto and Aquarius, that we remember that when we talk about our astrology, how we can actually use this to better not only our personal lives, but the collective as well. So I speak that with the sincerity with Venus when we're talking about revenge. That's why, because there's a lot of vengeance and justice that needs to be had and needs to be explored. So for this retrograde in particular, I do want people to explore that. Venus got into Pisces in January 2nd. Remember January 2nd? That was an interesting time in New Orleans. Really sad, a lot of loss. It was after the new moon in Capricorn. For a lot of people, that was the start of their new year, but in reality, it was the start of January. And like I said, the end of January, the 28th, it's that pre-shadow. So Venus and I, in my natal chart, relocation chart, and perfection year, all these, the things that you have to layer all of these charts to make the horoscope valid for you. Venus and I have been working with Venus in lots of ways that have challenged me, make me feel a lot more passionate, so that by May 16th, cool, I know what we're doing. Yeah, so I wanted to put that there, just out there for people. Yeah, so the post shadow ends the 16th, but Venus will, as I said, April 12th, go station direct. But I say that with quotations because May 16th really is when you can feel Venus feeling more comfortable navigating through not only Aries, but Taurus and so on and so forth throughout the rest. So truly a new astrological year feeling. I really do think this is going to be a lot of reassessment for people in that way. And yeah, I hope people are not just sitting with that, but making actions that are not only helpful towards them, but again, for the collective. Because it's not just about love, beauty, and art. It's very, it just gets so, just like
Surface.
fickle layer. Yeah, it's just surface level, and it just, we don't need that this month.
Yeah.
There's a lot of activity this month. And yeah, I'm hoping people use that for the better.
You said something before you move on. You said something that it clicked for me. I started following this lady who's a therapist. I cannot think of her name, and I'm not about to scroll and find, but I can't think of her name. But when you said that you were sitting with it, like I can sit with it and I can do something with it, but I can sit with it, but like, what am I doing with it? How am I taking it into action? And as a therapist, she said, everyone is always telling you to sit with something, but you could sit with it and it could just kind of be fleeting. But until you really process it and you dig in and you really allow it to develop you, then you're not going to really understand what the emotions are, what it is that you're trying to process. And she was saying that we spend a lot of time trying to intellectualize or to sit with it for a few seconds and think if we sat with it for a few seconds, like it's good. But when I say sit with it, I need you to feel it. I need you to understand what that energy is, what that emotion is. So when you started saying that, I was like, That's connected.
Yeah. They're like, the light bulbs, everything. And that's been something, like I said, personally, I've been navigating on this journey, because the journey, I can stand in the middle of the forked road, or know that there's a road coming up, and just stand there
Yeah.
for, take your time. But there are things that I know that I have to do to propel myself forward in my personal journey, that require me to acknowledge, right? So I can acknowledge past trauma, or decisions that I've made, or decisions that I didn't make. I can sit there, I can sit with it for as long as possible. But the astrology of this month, with this and even Mercury's retrograde and these eclipses,
Yeah. Mm.
I don't think, and again, this is my personal philosophy and this is my personal journey, but I think, as I mentioned, just with us being fire dominant, fire signs, especially sun signs, I have to move and make moves and do things that are going to require me, to think about my future self. And eclipses really do set that off. And we'll talk about how I think about the windows of opportunity of eclipses, where I think that they are. It can be the 6 months before and after, but I think that there are windows of opportunity that we get to see, and that maybe we can utilize as a collective. And I do that just with my own personal practice, ritual work. But I know that I need to move. I need to make moves. And that requires me being uncomfortable. That requires me separating and acknowledging that there are certain things that I just cannot hold on to anymore. And I really do think these retrogrades this month, that's why there's such a learning. I think not only in yourself, but other people who are in tune. That's the comfort level. That's where the maybe even being uncomfortable with saying, okay, I'm going to have to make some choices that I'm scared. I'm scared of what they look like now, but I have to think about me, and I have to think about me in the next month. I have to think about how I'm going to take this post shadow, and I have to think about this in the next 6 months, how this is going to look, because we have eclipses. These retrogrades are also helping us to reassess, because we're going to be dealing with openings and aspects of portals with these nodes.
Yeah.
And that's why the retrogrades are going back to the Pisces story here, because we're dealing with Pisces and Virgo nodes.
Yeah.
So the story is bigger. None of these retrogrades, none of these things with astrology are isolated events. All of this is conjuncting or sextiling or squaring, so on and so forth. These transits are very interconnected. Even if some things are off and they're trying only for a moment, building up to the peak is how we see and observe, and then we can apply the astrology. None of these things are isolated. So yeah, the uncomfort with Venus is definitely going to make people not only look at their outside, because a lot of people just focus on the beauty on the outside with Venus, maybe it's the inside. We really got to be okay with separating, acknowledging, and then leaving those things in the past, leaving those things where we were. Because for example, we were talking about July of last year, and I was able to check back in and say, okay, I remember where I was, I remember what I was doing or I was trying to do. And now I'm looking at almost a year later, like, that was rough. But now I'm sitting here with March 2025 astrology, and I'm like, okay, let's see how I make it to July of 2025, because there's more where that came from. I think is where I'm sitting at with that. Kind of, okay, cool. I gotta move. Gotta make a move, or I gotta do this, or I have to move like this. Yeah, definitely sitting with something is fine. Not if we're not acknowledging where we've been, where we are now, and where we can be, where we could be. How do we get there? So that's what these retrogrades working in tandem with these eclipses this month. And then Neptune stepping into a new sign this month. There's a lot to be uncomfortable about, but I think that there's more to be excited about, especially when we're talking about the collective and getting more people to see the truth, which is a journey in itself. When we're talking about moving into comfort, whatever that may look like.
Yeah.
So let's get to Mercury. As of March 1st, Mercury was in pre-shadow. Mercury is currently in pre-shadow as we are recording this.
To my notes.
Yeah, so Venus just went into retrograde officially, and now we're hanging out with Mercury in pre-shadow. Mercury will go retrograde on the 14th in Aries, and then April 7th is when it will station in Pisces. It will station direct, but that post-shadow will end on the 26th. So again, we're still dealing with a whole almost full 2 months of Mercury with this pre-shadow and post-shadow. So again, we're sitting with Venus in retrograde currently, and then the themes of Mercury are in pre-shadow. We're getting that's what I'm saying. These are all interconnected because Mercury and Venus are basically dancing between Aries and Pisces.
Pisces. Yeah.
So everything is interconnected. Everything is together here. Mercury.
I find it interesting that it goes retrograde on Pi Day.
Yeah. And it'll go retrograde in Aries at 10 degrees. And then April 7th, when it's back in Pisces, it'll be 27 degrees. So whatever the math is doing with that. I'm not a math girly, but
I'm not, but I know 314 is Pi Day.
so I'm just wondering if there's some numerology, there's any of the number, and then a number of people, y'all figure that out.
Yes.
If you can find the equation of that,
Let us know.
that would be lovely. So what's cool is, as we're recording as well, Mercury is in its last degrees of Pisces. On March 3rd, it will enter Aries, which is tomorrow for the both of us. But again, I'm not sure who's listening and if they're listening from behind, but for the most part, yeah. So again, Mercury post shadow, April 26th. So I think that's a really long time to be sitting with Mercury. And then again, Venus and Mercury are doing their post shadow things. And so I just think that that's really, like I said, it's interconnected. It's interesting. So Mercury's journey, I believe, because we've talked about Mercury as well too. We've talked about how there's two sides to Mercury because it rules two planets. It rules Gemini, which it is best known for. I think Mercury retrograde in Gemini is that's a different kind of experience. But Mercury is also the ruler of Virgo, and Virgo does things differently with Mercury's energy. Because we have a eclipse full moon in Virgo, like I said, all this is interconnected, right?
Isn't it on the same day?
And that will be, it's on the same day, yes. Now, give or take whatever your time is in the world, but yes, essentially Mercury retrograde and the lunar eclipse in Virgo, the full moon in Virgo, will be on the same day or just hours apart from each other, depending on where you are in the world. So
I'm going dark.
So do what you got to do. Do what you're able to do. My hypothesis, because again, Mercury rules Virgo. Like there's so much interconnectedness with how these nodes are showing up for people personally, and I really do think as a collective. And we're doing general, or I'm doing general. We talk about our personal charts as we go.
Yeah.
Mercury's message is that our communication needs to be clear. Our communication needs to be honest, and it needs to be from the heart. People do not associate Aries as that, but I do, because my interpretation of how Aries shows up on the other side, it can be aggressive. It can be, say, ill-informed. because again, it's coming from that Pisces aspect. It's coming just a little bit like, this isn't really clear. This isn't really 100% what I thought you were going to say, or this, you're not communicating this really well. It sounds a little too emotional for me. I think Aries has this I'll speak first, I'll ask questions later aspect as well. So that's why I say be as honest as possible. Be honest with yourself. Again, that's personal work that I think a lot of people are still navigating.
Yeah.
Because people want to sit with their uncomfortableness and don't want to speak of it. Or they don't want to share that things are not going right now versus waiting till later and blowing up and exploding maybe later. And that also happens in Pisces too. A lot of people don't talk about that. I think Pisces are inclined to explode as well on people when they're dealing with, their communicating with their feelings, with things that they're not happy with, things that they're uncomfortable with. And this Aries Pisces back and forth, plus the connection with the full moon in Virgo, specifically the Pisces being in opposition, Mercury just ruling over Virgo. There's a lot of truth that needs to get expressed, I think, in regard to this lunar eclipse. That needs to be, it needs to be as honest as possible. I do think that will mean that there's more likely to going to be combative arguments. There's going to be a lot of blow-ups, and that's where that chaos maybe that you're feeling is too. A lot of people are talking about, but I really need people to connect how this Aries, Pisces back and forth with the retrogrades, with Venus and Mercury particularly. These are really close planets. Again, these are things that are close to us, close with us, that we're experiencing in relation to the eclipses. So I really do think that these are going to be things that are super personal, there's a lot of vulnerability that's going to be needed. That's where that honesty, truth-telling comes in. You need to be a little more vulnerable. As far as the collective, I do think that we're probably going to see certain people in certain circles say things, do things, make decisions that may not be well thought out, ill-informed, again, not making a decision based on the information that may come a little bit later in the month, especially after the last eclipse, which will be the new moon in Aries. That'll be 9 degrees. That's on the 29th or 30th, depending on where you are in the world. Neptune also will be going into Aries the same day, around the same time. So again, literally everything is connected with the next major entrance, either into Aries or going back into Pisces and starting back up. There's so many things that are just too connected for people to be talking about the astrological weather and forecast of this month as separated events. Yes, certain things the degrees are maybe not be exact, but they're all going to conjunct at some point with the sun, with the other planets that are in Aries and Pisces as all of this changes. Mercury and Venus are really not playing because they're interacting so much with both of these eclipses that I really think people need to not only be talking about that, but administering why that's going to be important for people to sit with this month and to also then take action once things station direct, how they're going to navigate the push shadow next month, specifically in April. Last year in April, we had the eclipses, we had all these conjunctions with, I want to say, the outer planets. We had some squares. April was super, super active. That's what March is doing. That's what March is this year. And so the post shadow of these two retrogrades, I think in April, and then again leading into sometime in May, that's where we get to step into action and step into using what we learned with these, the sitting or sitting out or dealing with uncomfortable feelings. Okay, cool. Let's move into it. Let's step into it April and May. But that's not what I'm hearing in terms of what I've seen in preparation for March. But all of this is just too interconnected. And I feel like if looking at my calendars and looking at the information that I've been discovering and researching, and this stuff is just too, you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
You can't, and like we've talked about on the podcast, but also personally, you can't have Aries without the Pisces. You cannot have the beginning without the end.
The end. Yeah.
Because this new moon in Aries on the 29th or 30th, as I mentioned, that is the last eclipse that closes up the Aries Libra nodes that we experienced the last 2 years or 2.5 years. You cannot have a new beginning without the previous end. And that's why I was so excited that the new moon in Pisces that we just had in February, a few days ago, that February 28th, had nothing, not to say that it doesn't have nothing to do, but it didn't have a stamp of the eclipse. Because yes, I do think moving into the eclipses, 6 months before, 6 months after, total portals of time, of growth. Look at where you were 6 months ago, look at where you can be 6 months. That's why I think ahead and I think about where I've come from. But I do think that looking a month in advance for signs of opportunity with these eclipses can let you know about some things that you are holding on to that you need to let go of, which goes back to Venus. If I have material things that I need to purge and get rid of with Venus, wherever she's at, that retrograde is going to tell me to reassess. But I think of Venus, not just the material things that we have, but the things that I have to offer, my collective, my community, myself even, the skills that I have, the skills that I want to have. So that's what Venus should be bringing up for people when we're talking about retrograde. But working that in tandem with these eclipses, go, okay, so the new moon in Pisces in 6 months, the full moon in Pisces is going to bring me something new, and that'll be an eclipse. And that's how we start opening up these portals and stepping into portals of opportunity. So that's why I call them windows of opportunity with the eclipses, because a lot of people say, oh, fated endings and fated beginnings, and that's great. And I think that terminology is awesome for people who are getting into it. But windows of opportunity can also mean that it is about loss. Windows of opportunity to lose something that you do not want or do not need anymore. That's a window of an opportunity. It's an opportunity. It may not be an opportunity you're ready to handle, but eclipses take whether you want it to or not. So I have had to train myself now with eclipses to remember that it's an opportunity to step into the new Kailyn in 6 months and then a year, right? Because we sit with these nodes for roughly 2 years, 18 months. But again, with the 30th here or the 29th, this is the last time we have to deal with Aries and Libra until the next time it comes around.
Yeah.
That relates to the Aries Libra nodal closure. Even though it's a new moon, it's like, oh yeah, but it still can. I think that this new moon in Aries is still a goodbye to the Aries and Libra lessons that we all had to learn, which again were super uncomfortable, especially because we had Pluto and Capricorn that was squaring. It was super wild. Just like we brought up before we started, July had 2 Capricorn full moons in Cancer season. We had Pluto and Capricorn still. We were still hanging out with Aries and Libra eclipses. So that was uncomfortable personally for me, especially the way my chart is set up. And you also can share that as well. Or some other friends of ours that weren't hanging. I have 2. We have a mutual Aries friend who's also a spiritual baddie, and I have an Aries sun friend. It wasn't cute. Also, yeah, because you and them, like y'all are from the Pluto Libra, Saturn Libra, like y'all. I'm like, I remember, like, I have so many friends who have, particular, like a lot of Libra. You have a Libra stellium. There's just so many people in my life who have Aries, and in particular, like that Libra stamp of approval called the stellium, just because of when you were born. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, the homies we were really struggling. So tying all that in to say this really is our chance to say bye. Thank you so much, Aries Libra. Thanks. But we're good. Like we hopefully have integrated what we needed to learn.
Yeah.
And we can say goodbye to Aries and Libra nodes for what 18 years or not 18 years, 9 years or whatever, whenever it comes back around. Like my brain just really scrambled. So I'm just like, I'm just ready to say goodbye to Aries and Libra doing what it was doing.
It was doing the most.
It was doing the most. And so we get to say goodbye to that. We get to peace out. And in 6 months time, so that'll be what, October, we'll have a full moon in Libra and we're good. And I really like that for a lot of people in terms of windows of opportunity, because we get to say goodbye to that in Aries. That's a new moon. We get to start off Aries season, or at least get through the halfway point of Aries season. Okay, cool. Hopefully things start showing up for people, and people do feel more comfortable with the energy, regardless of the retrogrades. I do want to add as well, Neptune will be entering Aries. So we talked about this in the last episode, how outer planets are doing certain things moving forward. So Neptune is that first one where it's going to step into Aries. Last time Neptune was in Aries was 1861 to 1875. Yeah. Jaw is dropped.
We were still enslaved.
That part. And that's why, too, I had prefaced this earlier by saying, especially as Black disabled folk, Black queer folk, Black, just all the things. I think of Harriet Tubman, and
That's exactly where my mind went. Yes.
I think of being able to take care of your community who are willing to step into the newness of what Neptune has to offer. So there again, when you started this off really well, I'm happy we chatted a little bit before, but we do. We kiki about this stuff all the time throughout the year. All the stuff that you even, yeah, we be knowing. We just be like, wait, so I'd be like, Siobhan, so if this and this is happening, this and this and this, and you'd be like, yeah, that we reconnect the dots. And this is why I love this friendship, because I feel safe talking about so much of this stuff and making sure that we remember as Black people like, what that looks like for us. Because
yes,
if we're talking 1861 to 1875, when I bring up Harriet Tubman, there's this yearning for me to remind myself and to remind people who get it that we are only going to be able to protect and quote unquote save the people that want to be saved and that want to be where we need to be as a people. And so that's why I bring this up to say, like, we as Black people, as astrologers, as spiritualists, as tarot readers, as all these things, this love and light stuff is cute, but it's really going to be the detriment of us if we allow the sanitization of capitalism and white supremacy to not only invade our practices, but to invade and permeate how we move forward with this knowledge. And Neptune walking into Aries saying, hey, what's up? Please, how's it been? If that's not like the punch in the face, very Martian Aries, but the reminder that we need to be not just sitting with our uncomfortable feelings, not just sitting these retrogrades that are super close to our hearts and close to our expression and close to how we need to be with one another, being real with one another, that Pisces to Aries movement. If we're not doing that, Neptune and Aries is going to look really wild the next 12 and a half years, because that's how long Neptune is going to be chilling. Preview. And again, like we mentioned in the last episodes, a lot of these outer planets are going to dip into their next sign up. So Saturn, Neptune are going to dip into Aries, and then they're going to do a little retrograde and hang back out in Pisces again. So this theme of Pisces moving into Aries is going to be retrograde all of 2025. We're going to get a preview and then we're going to step back. And spirits, the planets, what have you, they're allowing us this preview with a lot of these planets. Uranus is going to do the same thing with Gemini. It's going to dip in and it's going to dip and it's going to take a step back. I showed you a little bit. Can you write something down? Can you? It is. It's like taking. It's an open book test.
Yeah.
We've heard a lot about lots of things that are happening in regard to our world and our governments. This is an open book test. You're supposed to jot everything down. You're supposed to have studied already before. So you step into the exam.
Check your notes.
Right. You check your notes. You say, okay, this is what's on the test. This is what's here. These are the themes. These are, again, we have Venus and Mercury, closer planets, showing us what these dips back and forth into Pisces and Aries are doing, because these outer planets are going to be showing that on a collective level. And then they're going to step back into Pisces, your Saturn and Neptune specifically. They're going to take a little step back, be retrograde for a little bit, and then station direct. And by 2026, by next year, they're going to be like, hey, I'm in Aries, you remember? I'm back. Backstreet's back. Again, to reiterate that all of this is so interconnected in a way that, yeah, everybody's taking an open book exam at this point. What are you learning? What are you sitting with? How much time do you think you have to sit with this? Because it's really not going to be a long time. I really do think because of these dips back and forth, March is showing us that we only have so much time. These eclipses will also remind a lot of people, because March has so much, I think there's so much for us to learn, but I really do need to remind people that eclipses will snap you up so quickly with a quickness.
Yeah.
As I like to say, windows of opportunity. It's not opportunities to feel comfortable. You only have so much time. So the Aries and Libra script or lesson that you needed, sure, I think we'll get sorted out by October when that full moon in Libra comes. But this opportunity here with the solar eclipse and with Neptune going in Aries, it's time to wrap it up. It's time to wrap it up. You probably have until September, because that's our lunar eclipse. That's what Virgo. Virgo's like, hey, I'm here. It's Virgo and Pisces time. What's up? What's up? How you doing?
Boop. Boop, boop.
Because September is here. So there's only so much time. I think timing really will be able to, with the new lessons that we're learning with Pisces and Virgo, and then Aries and Libra gets finished on the 29th with the solar eclipse.
Very action-packed.
It's action-packed because we have to remember that we're doing this work in tandem with other things. Because March 20th is the first day of Aries. So March 20th, the sun is first day of spring equinox, astrological new year. And that'll be that'll be a week or so after this eclipse, the first eclipse in Virgo. So so Mercury's going to be really pushing forward there. Yeah, these windows of opportunity. I give everyone until about the end of April to really look at these themes and look at these lessons and say, okay, this is where we're at. This is how we got to navigate personally, again, in our everyday lives, and then as a collective. That is my prediction. Those are my general pushes for people during this month. Because it has not only consequences, but opportunities that will show up literally in tandem with the eclipses, in tandem with the post-shadow times that are coming a month and some change later. And it has implications to impact 6 months, the next 6 months down the line. Nothing is isolated in March. Nothing is ever isolated in astrology. But especially this month, there's a reason why Venus and Mercury are in retrograde in Aries and Pisces.
I wrote down that overarching theme of beginning and endings. And as you were talking about, of course, all the planets ebb and flow back and forth during their retrograde period before they transition into another constellation. But for some reason, this Aries Pisces dance feels very Piscean because there's much of an ebb and flow in the water and crashing to the shore. So what are you bringing to the shore? What are you taking back with you into the ocean? It's feeling that. It's like, what are you bringing to shore, which feels like Aries because that's the surface, and what are you bringing back into the ocean, which is Pisces, and it goes beneath the sea. Like, are you sunsetting? So what goes into the sunset and what meets the sunrise? That's how it feels for me. And then with Venus and Mercury together, we're talking about, of course, our communications and how we're navigating technology, how we're navigating our relationships. But you said something about Venus that's sticking with me. You said it's about our skill set. So now I'm like, how are you even communicating your skill set to the collective? How are you communicating your skill set with yourself? Like, how are you acknowledging skills that you may have and you may have suppressed? Like, all of that may be coming to the forefront for you. Does this mean there's a career shift? Are you reassessing your career and your professional life? Like, now I'm like, that unlocked something for me because I didn't think about Venus from a skill set perspective, but when you associate it with Taurus, that's a very Pentacles thing, and Pentacles is about our resources. People think Pentacles is money, but it's really about your body, your resources, your energy, your strength, what you can put into things, your fortitude, your perseverance, like all of that is Pentacles. So that part is there. But then also when you circle back to Venus and revenge, you spoke about it like not revenge. I could be revenge, like I'm about to go hex somebody. However, is that justice for you? Because you spoke about revenge in the space of justice, which is the Libra aspect, because Libra is justice and creating balance. Like, I have to balance the scales, and that me balancing those scales may not be cute and cuddly the way people think balancing scales are. I may have to cut somebody's throat, and that could be figuratively or literally. So that's the only way I can create balance because shit is off. So even thinking about it from that perspective, that just lifted some things for me, and I'm like, where am I enacting justice? How am I thinking about my skills? And I feel like that's even a little more apropos for me because I'm getting ready to finally, after forever, start a new job. So I'm getting ready to start a new job, and I'm revisiting skills that I have not used in 2 years. But I'm also recognizing that even though I haven't used these skills in 2 years, I still know what the fuck I'm doing. So it's even that. It's just resurging things that have been dormant and had time to rest. So even thinking about that and then how I can build upon those skills. Because like when you think about it from a retrograde perspective, thinking about Eight of Pentacles, do you need to gain more knowledge?
That was the card that I was thinking about too when you were mentioning and explaining the aspects of transferable skills and working towards something with your time and your energy. Eight of Pentacles, 100%. Because again, people, and you get it because the girlies, I get it. The Pentacles get mired and watered down so easily, but if you're only thinking about money, or just money or riches and resources in the material sense. What if you pull a Pentacles card in a different subject reading? And this is where this is how I know if people know the tarot or not, if they know what these cards mean. I'm not saying I do readings with people and stump people, but I have seen people not know how to articulate these cards with different subjects. Those symbols mean a lot more, and it's the same in astrology. It's the same in astrology. So with that in mind, Venus is also about honoring your skills, how you value your time, right? How you show up with your time in all relationships. That relationship starts with yourself. But you just brought up some really good news. Congrats to you on getting a new job.
Thank you.
I want to honor this space and this time to congratulate you, because I know personally the journey of the last several years. We both have had a lot of those times where we've shifted gears, let's just say, in the professional realm.
Yes.
Fun neo baddies. We have shifted, and thanks to Pluto and Aquarius, I'm not surprised that we've had to shift gears several times back and forth, or different things, right? We've had to just navigate and do what we do. But I do honor, and I want to honor that for you. I really am proud of you, and that you were stepping into this, and the other things that you're working on that are coming for you. So I as a Venus in Cancer, I do want to honor that, because I do see that in you, that you have been doing the work, either knowing that it was Venus, or knowing that it was Mercury, or knowing that it was this, or knowing that it was even in the Pentacles, or even just us looking back. I want to honor that. I want to honor the 9 of Pentacles, that where you're at, because that's where you're at.
That's my card.
I love that card. That's my favorite. That's my favorite card in the Pentacles.
And I'm a Virgo Venus.
There you go. I love it. So I just want to take a few moments to honor that with you on the podcast, because that is what this retrograde. And you were talking about too, I want to highlight, you said skills that you haven't used, but we also need to remember there are such things as transferable skills. And so there are skills that we can mention dormant, or things that just we haven't utilized in a while, but still being your creative flow and doing the podcast and keeping up with the podcasts, and again, the other things in your life that you have attended to. January 28th, I can specifically remember, because I have a planner, and I knew the card that I was working with for my personal reading, and that was my chariot month. So I'm like, okay, where am I supposed to be? And again, so just thinking about pre-shadow, and now sitting with the retrograde phase, just how we remember what we have to offer ourselves and honor ourselves with Venus. We are the altar when it comes to Venus. So Mercury's altar obviously looks different. Offerings look different. But for Venus, this is just maybe cleaning up the altar, changing up the altar to ourselves, to our interpersonal relationships. And then again, I always say the relationship that we have with the collective and our communities. So Venus is asking you to just, maybe do the 8 of Pentacles, maybe go back and look at the 5 of Pentacles, what that looks like, what that sits like, 6 of Pentacles, and the 7. And then maybe looking at the 8 and saying, okay, I'm in my stride, I'm doing my thing, I'm kicking it with the vibe. And then the same with Mercury. Mercury would be more than likely, I would say, the swords.
Yeah.
And then let's look at the swords. Let's see what's going on there. And what's our relationship with those cards, or what's our relationship with that particular suit? If we're
tarot babes.
Tarot babes. That's what we do. So I just want to affirm that for you, that you have not only transferable skills, but you specifically, and even other people who are navigating, starting things during this new astrological new year, there's a lot of trust that there should be a reassessment of the trust that we have a lot to offer ourselves to. We have to look at what we have to offer for us as the altar, in love, in your skills, in the way you amass resources, and again, how you show up in your interpersonal relationships. Things on the inside, like I mentioned, the Venus is going to be on the inside. He's going to be on the inside this retrograde.
Hey, friends.
Yeah, we're like, no, I want to go get this done, or I want to go.
No.
And do what you do.
Sorry, fam.
and do what you do. I know a lot of people tell people not to go get things done or do certain things during retrograde, and do what you do with that information if people rock with it like that. But I do think that in working on the inside is going to be a very good way to navigate the compass that the eclipses are giving us as well. Because again, windows of opportunity to allow something to leave your life as peacefully as possible and allow for things to enter your life as peacefully as possible or as calmly as possible, whatever
Yeah.
wordage works for. Yeah, I'm hoping people are starting new things, trusting themselves this month, not just with professions. And again, 10th house is about your role in society. So whatever that looks like for you, whether it is a job or a new role that you are partaking. But let's remember that there are some things that we have to say goodbye to, and that Aries eclipse is going to be pretty clear what that is. And I try to I do my best to work with the planets and the transits. I do my best. I will say that.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not trying to get something yanked out of my perception or my life and not like even in a grave way. I lost my grandmother on an eclipse, full moon eclipse in Leo specifically. And her birthday just passed. Her birthday was on the new moon in my time zone on the 28th. And so I spent time and honored her with the new moon energy in Pisces and I think, I'm a living, breathing, practicing astrologer testament to losing something during an eclipse portal. And I know what it's like. It's like a time warp. It really it shifts a lot. And I don't play behind these eclipses, especially when they're interwoven with so many other transits happening. This is my little, I'm gonna hold y'all's hand when we drop this podcast episode. Don't let your spirits or your practice of astrology, don't let these eclipses catch you slipping or like you weren't paying attention. Be ready for something to leave and be ready to learn something with something new.
Okay.
And honor that as best as possible.
Yeah. I want to highlight something because you've been mentioning January 28th. And if I'm not mistaken, that was when the job that I ended up receiving, it's when they circled back to me and was like, hey, are you still interested in this role? Because I hadn't heard from them in like a month. And my card for January and my personal year ahead was the Two of Pentacles.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I love it.
Yeah. I love that. And my February card was Judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But interesting enough, I had to pull it up. So interesting enough, my March card is the Four of Wands reversed. So that's going to be very interesting. Because now we've been talking about what's leaving home. What am I walking away from? Interesting.
Yeah.
The alignment is very, very interesting because then my April card is Temperance.
Okay. And that's a lot of the post shadow. A lot of these, the Venus and Mercury will go direct, but you'll be looking at the lessons, looking at the reassessment. Okay, this is how and you'll be in the flow of this new job, and you'll be in the flow of this new ventures. That sounds pretty dope. I had Two of Cups February. I'll share that part, and I'll say that I knew it was going to bring me a different perspective of the Two of Cups. So not boot up, not bait up or anything, because people think that's like just a hard set meaning. Again, that's why astrology is the way that it is out here in these streets. And Two of Cups just brought me, so the same like with Two of Pentacles, because when you said Two of Pentacles, I was like, oh, like my light bulb went on. The twos have a lot to do with the connection, starting in yourself, and there's a mirrored reflection. And Two of Cups, I will just say, did bring me the reassurance that I know that I still got this, which is similar to very much Two of Pentacles. But it also brought me a chance to think about opportunities that will connect me to where I need to be. not only my future, but connect me with the people that I hopefully get to be around, get to grow with. Yeah. Two of Cups. Two of Cups it was cute. It was cute. It was a whirlwind of how I thought I was going to make certain things happen or the opportunities. But yeah, Two of Cups it was cute. I'm happy I got to experience the Two of Cups in that way. So learned a lot. Got to teach myself a lesson with that. So, yeah, this one though, Six of Wands. And again, a lot of people think, oh, it's the victory. It's the old school way of them. You're basically prepping for war. Because a lot of people don't think about the card that comes right after. The card that comes right after is you're fighting with the Seven of Wands.
With Seven of Wands, yeah.
So Six of Wands is before you go to battle. They would have parties, they would get together, they would keep
celebration.
Before you go to war, you decorate your leader who's going out into war, and let's all have a party, let's kiki, let's drink, let's do all the things, and then you go. So yeah, Six of Wands is I'm gonna just chill for a moment. Again, I just read the collective to filth, and I'm like, I'm a part of this collective, so I'm just gonna.
This was taking notes.
I was like, oh yeah, so Six of Wands, okay, all right, yeah. So we're both with the Wands right now. I don't read reversals because I do think that the Six of Wands on its own, it tells what it is. It tells what it is very much. Am I excited? Yes. Do I know that I have to go to war in the sense of like making some decisions about my passions, about Wands? Or I do love the Wands, but as a fire sign, I know what that looks like, and I know what that feels like. So yeah, Aries season is going to be these transits with Aries are going to be very eye-opening.
Yeah. This is great.
Yeah, this is great. I'm excited, but it's going to be a lot because it's all connected and it's all interconnected for the reason of making it clear that we need to enter into this new astrological new year with some sense, better sense.
A different lens, advanced growth of lens.
It's wiped off. Pisces is a little foggy, right? Glasses get a little foggy.
So clarity.
Yeah, you gotta like wipe your phone screen off.
Clarity.
Let's just open it up. Let's get a little vulnerable. Let's get a little real. Let's get a little communicative with that way, and it would still run. The eclipses are going to run the show. So.
Love it. This is great. Thank you, Minister Kailyn.
Oh, thanks. I did write my notes on my little ministry little notepad.
We love notes.
The only way I could get through this without forgetting everything.
Listen, notes help. I be telling people check notes sometimes, depending on your podcast platform, to write out, you script it out, read from the teleprompter, so you got what you have. You can ad lib while you're in there. Sometimes you need that. Newscasters have teleprompters. They have scripts. They're not speaking off the cuff. They got notes. So don't be feeling like you got to have all your shit together. Write notes down and use them as your guide. So thank you, Minister Kailyn, for our technically second, because even though the first one was in two parts, I don't think I'm going to separate this one. I think I'm going to leave it as it is. Thank you for our second astrology talk. Don't ask me what we're going to talk about next time. We just going to bring it to you because it's a lot happening. So stay tuned for the next astrology talk, and we'll just come with it with the newness and the things that we need to be aware of in the cosmic weather and the astrological space. And the next time you'll hear from us will be in the astrological new year. So, yay!
Thanks so much, Siobhan.
Welcome. And thank you all for tapping into the Muses Lab podcast. Until we meet again. Thank you for tapping into the Muses Lab. I hope you enjoyed this week's adventure. Be sure to like this episode, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and share the wealth with others. Sign up for my newsletter and join the TML community at www.themuseslab.com. Receive weekly musings, early access and exclusive drops, as well as discounts on products and services. Thank you once again for tapping in, and until next time.